Hey, in this video, we're going to go through Zoho Desk and talk about a series of use cases and how we can build them and the features that we can use to bring together a real use case with a customer scenario and how we can use the features of Zoho Desk to provide amazing customer service. So I'm going to be going into the sandbox of Zoho Desk, and it's not going to show you all of the features, but at least I'm going to be able to keep data secure and not show you things that like email addresses, etc. Okay, so here we are in Zoho Desk, and the first requirement is ticket creation. How does a ticket get created? And the example is a customer email. So when you're in Zoho Desk, we go to settings, and when we go to email, you'll have the ability to grab a support email address, and you can map that. And again, everything that I'm showing you here is in the sandbox mode, and so it's not quite exactly as you would see it in the live version. But basically, as you can see here, we've got support@yourcompany.zohodesk.com. And what you do is, if you're using an external email platform, for example, Gmail or Microsoft, then you use an auto forwarding rule to that email address, and then all of those will come in to that relevant department. So you can set up departments that we have here, and you can create an email address specifically for that department. So we have, Relevate IT, we have support email address, and then there's a friendly name, and then we've got email fetching. So basically all of your emails would automatically be forwarded in. And then what's going to happen is, as soon as that email comes in, it will automatically create a ticket. Now for this one, I've not done that. I've just gone and created a new ticket, but on the back end, everything is virtually the same. So let's just do that now. So I've got my department, and I'm going to create a contact name. So this one is test, will already be in the system. Maybe we'll just go test 2. And I need an email address. So I've created one here, just a dummy one, a@a.com. It's not going to go anywhere, but it meets the criteria to create a test email address. So then I've put in my subject line, and then on this page layout, and you can create additional page layouts because the ticket information that comes in, there is a default one, and it will grab whatever's in the email. You've got your subject line, your body, etc. But you can also create ticket templates for when people enter information, for example, within the help desk. But using this one, I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to change the classification because it's required to question. But you can modify all of those. You can add additional fields. You can create a whole bunch of other workflows and triggers. So down the bottom, you can add attachments up to 40 megabytes, and I can submit, and that will just create the ticket, or I can send as an email, which will send an email of the ticket creation to the client at the same time. So I'm just going to hit submit. So we're going to suppose that the client has sent an email in, and it will create exactly the same. And as we can see, we've got our ticket. If we go back out to the ticket list view, we can see open tickets, which is a starred view, and we can see all of those here. And at the moment, they've been automatically assigned to the IT department. So if I go into this view, I'm looking at classic view. I can make it compact, or I can change the view based on priority, how old the ticket is, what the CRM status is, or what the status of the ticket is. We can also see in the list view that I've got some other views here, and I can create my own. So I've got open tickets, but I might only want to see unassigned open tickets, or I might want to see my open tickets. And then if I click the drop down here, I've got all these sorts of views here. And on this filter, or my saved filters, I can go and create a new filter and then save that as a new view. So it might be my open tickets in the last 7 hours or something like that. So clicking into the ticket here, we can see we've got the timer already clicking away, and that is how long it's taking for me to handle the ticket itself. There is another timer running in the back end based off when the ticket was created, and that can interact with SLA policies as well. We can see a couple of other things on the ticket. Down the bottom, I've got this thing which is a blueprint, or it is a process that is forced for the user. So I've turned this on just as a demonstration, but I can have a process built in the background that's going to force the way that I need to handle the ticket. So if I click on that one, start working the ticket, then it's going to automatically assign. Then I can create certain functions that happen when I click that. So if I wanted to assign it automatically to me, if I wanted to escalate it, if I wanted to move it to another department, I could create a workflow here based on the type of ticket. You can also automatically apply certain workflows based on some of the ticket information. Now, to give you a little bit more information about the email content itself and the conversation, what I've done is I've created another test ticket, and we can see here, this would be the content body from the ticket. And if I click down here, I can see the recipient email address. And now, because we still got the blueprint, but let's just say I don't want to run the blueprint, or I can have another field control which workflow process that ticket follows, which then tells me which blueprint. And for that, you would build multiple blueprints for each workflow process. But in this case, I'm just going to revoke the blueprint. So I take that one off, revoke, and now the ticket will run without the blueprint. And now we can see a couple of other actions. So we've got remote assist here, which is actually using the Zoho Assist. So if you needed to remote screen share and deal with something on a client PC, you could use that. And then you've got macro. So if you wanted to combine a few actions, this one is mark as spam. So it might send an email and mark it as spam, and then remove it from the inbox or close the ticket. So you can do several actions in one go, and you can build a whole bunch of those. Then we've got close ticket, and we also have this selector here, which allows you to close the ticket without sending an email, which is quite handy if the email was automatically created by somebody else's ticket system and you don't want you sending a closed ticket notification to create another ticket or to create another automatic response in their system. Now, when you triage the ticket, you're going to come along the left-hand side here, and we've got a few things. So we can look at the customer info, and you can get a little bit more info. If they are connected in with the CRM, more details will come through, and you'll be able to improve the customer record. On the high-level ticket information, we can change the owner, and so we can look at the team that's going to handle it or the agent. Now, I can't click here because I've got email addresses, but then you would assign an individual agent, and you could have them get a notification that they've been assigned. You've got the status, and we can add multiple statuses there. Your due date, which you can automatically set as soon as it comes in. So it will show you how long you've got to deal with the ticket. So say, for example, you wanted to deal with every ticket within 3 days, that as soon as that ticket is created, that it automatically applies a 3-day due date. You can then go back. So say, for example, it entered a longer process. Maybe the triage is that it has to be handled within 3 hours. So you would set that due date to be 3 hours, and then you would assign that to an individual to go and assign it to the right department or the right sales user or something like that. And then tags, which really tags don't do much other than just give you a visual understanding of what type of ticket is it, what do you need to know from a high level. And then on your ticket information, like I said, you can add additional fields. You can create different views for different types of tickets. You can have different ticket types per department, etc. And then in your additional information, that's like your priority or your internal stuff, the channel that it came through. So this one's saying email, but you could have it through web, chat, all those sorts of things. Language, if that's important, and then classification. And again, this is a required question on our current format, but you can make it optional, and you can automatically assign based on keywords that are in the email. Now, that email's come through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a due date for tomorrow, and then I'm going to assign it to the sales team. And then I'm going to make sure that the question is more about sales. So I'm going to change the classification, and then I'm going to save that one. Let's just say I've got this question here, and I want to add a little bit more context for the next person. So I'm going to hit this comment button, and now I'm going to say, please book a call. And then I'm going to comment. And at the moment, that's showing as private. If that ticket was raised in the help center, then that would allow the end user, if I didn't mark it as private, to see the conversation history, and you would be able to share that. Now, I keep mentioning the help center. So this is our help center, and we've designed it with some branding, and there's a whole bunch of departments and knowledge articles, etc. So when I go into the search box up here and I type in how to, and it's going to automatically recommend a whole bunch of articles. So I'm going to go onto this how to browse privately, which I've done in this window to be able to show you, because as a user in the system, it's logging me into the agent side, but as a customer, they're going to see all of the knowledge articles. And in this, I've got certain things turned on. We've got a forum. We've got the ability for users to add responses. And sometimes, they might let us know that there's a spelling mistake or they had a question that we didn't quite answer. And we can get that to create a ticket, so then we know to go and update the article and improve it. We've got a few tags that help people to find the article. They can share it. They can let you know whether or not it's helpful. And you can use this not only publicly facing, but you can have articles that are available only to logged in users when you give them an account. And you can also have articles that are only available to agents, which is the users inside your help desk platform. So using those articles, now in the sandbox environment, I don't really have any articles in here, but if I click on this suggested knowledge base articles icon, which is the little light globe, then it would show me all of the articles along the side here. And I can click on the article and add the text into the email, or I can add the link to the article, which would give you more detail and allow them to go to the help center to view the information. If I want to create an article from this ticket, I can go to resolution and then I can say, book a call and send a product flyer. And I've got this option here where it says save or save and add article. So for this, I'm going to click save and add article. And then what that's going to do is it's going to create a knowledge article. So it's taking me over to the knowledge base. And unfortunately in the test environment, I can't actually show you that. So here I am in my production environment and you can see all of the articles that are here. We can see the number of views, any comments, any likes, dislikes. We can also go and look at the dashboard and we can see how well our articles are performing, how many views we've had, either through anonymous users, internal users, and then we can zoom out and have a look at over the last 12 months, how many articles have been created, how many views have they gotten, what's the impact, how many have been attached to tickets, and what is the articles that are getting the most attention, what's trending, how many people have liked and shared and viewed, etc. You can also, when looking at an article itself, go in and edit the article as you need. You can also see comments, history, feedback, what version it's on, and the visibility. So this one is currently showing all users. If I click on the edit icon, I'm going to have the ability to change the category, say who can see it, and change the permissions. I can add additional tags to help it get found, and I can expire the article. So if it's only relevant for the next 12 months as a temporary measure, then we can put that one in there. So back to our ticket. So here we are in the ticket, and I'm just going to click on reply all. Let's just say it's been now assigned back to me. I'm going to hit reply all, and this is now going to create an email. We can see the outbound email, which is the sandbox test email, and who it's going to, and the support desk that it's going to be associated with. So when I send this out, and I can store my email signature, but we can say, hi, thanks for your inquiry. Here is the booking link. And then we'll put the link in there. Okay, so let's just imagine the link is there. So I'm going to copy that one. Now, obviously, when you're sending a lot of emails, you might have a few emails which are pretty consistent, in which case you would either need a snippet or a canned response or something like that. So we have a couple options here. So we've got this one here, which is snippets. So if I click on that one, we can see I've got a couple created: tag as partner, Google review, or an article created. Thank you for your feedback. We've created an article. So in this one, I'm just going to go and add snippet. And I'm going to go, hi, thanks, here's the booking link. And this one will be called book a meeting. Now it needs to be a code name, so it's got to have a line or a hyphen or a dash if you're going to put spaces in. And then, do you want this snippet shared? So I can share this with other people, or I can just keep that one just for me. So if it was my personal booking link, then I would probably keep it just for me. But if it was like a group booking link, then I would probably share it. So in this case, I'm just going to keep it private. I'm going to go save. You can also use place, not holders. So you can say, hi, first name, thank you for your inquiry. here is the booking link. So in this one, we've got this text here. So I'm just going to back that one out and I'm just going to select, and it's automatically put it in there. So we've got a very quick canned response type email. Now, if you had a complete email that you wanted to send, we could use the templates. This is a little bit more pre-configured, and you can build a whole series of templates. So you've got ones that are automatic out of the box. So for example, I've got two here. One is the review request. And so that has entered some text in here, which I've pre-configured. And it's like, hey, we'd love a Google review. Here's our Google link. Here's our Trustpilot link. And in that, it's put basically the same content in. Now, I think snippets are generally for more like you need to supply the banking details or the ABN or some like bits of detail that you need easy to hand, but it's not a full email template. This one, you can do a lot more in terms of the font editing. You can add, the links and make them clickable. And so you would use a template probably more when you're doing customer facing stuff, and a snippet if you just needed a quick little bit of information that doesn't need formatting, for example. Now, I did also mention email signature. So if I'm going to just quickly send this one, and then we're going to see that on the customer history. So on the left here, it took us back to the ticket information, but this list of things, if I go here, we can see the timeline, and then we've got the followers. So if you were going to do this work, and we could see an error because I don't have the emails configured in the sandbox, that's fine, but we can see that it did try to send it and it went through DNS domains and it couldn't find my test account, which was a.com. Followers just allows you to keep people on top of things like your supervisor, if they needed to know who was doing what with which particular client. So you can add a follower here and that would look up your user list. The other one you've got is share ticket, and you can share that across departments and so that multiple people can see it. So you might have the sales might loop in the service department so that if there's a problem with the product and you're going to fix an old one and sell a new one, that you've got everybody in the loop. Now, getting back to the email signature, which I mentioned earlier, if we go over to setup, so you can search for what you need, but what we're going to do is just come down here to personalization and go to preferences. And this is where you can set up your email signature. So we go add signature. Then we can customize and provide all the information you need, and that will automatically get inserted into the relevant department, and your email signature will be adopted within the email trail. Now, I did mention the blueprint before, and as we can see, there's a whole bunch of buttons down here that are showing the progress and the transition. So let's talk through that. So I go to settings, then I come down to blueprints, and in the blueprints, we can see we've got our test blueprint here, and it's kind of forcing a workflow for each of the tasks that need to happen. So we've got start working on this ticket. And at this point, we're going to click during. Now we can have some filter rules on how they get in, but we'll go to during, we're going to add operation, and we're going to go to fields. And in this one, we're going to select ticket owner so that it asks the user to assign a ticket owner at the point of that phase in the process. So it kind of forces the user down a particular pathway. So we're going to go ticket owner. And then in the next one, I'm on escalate. So the during is kind of what you're asking the user for. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to a action, and we're going to ask for a comment. And that's going to ask the user to put some comments in about the ticket and why they're escalating it. And so we can make it mandatory, not mandatory, or custom. And so if we go into after, now what we can do is in the alerts, let's go new, and this is going to send an email. So let's go escalate. And we might already have a template, which we've written, or we can create a new template. I'm just going to use this. And so from here, we might go send email alert to, and then you can select specific agents, or we can say, this is going to go to the record owner and it's going to go to the contact. So the client is going to receive that notification. If, for example, you would create in the template, it would say, hi, this ticket has now been escalated. We aim to resolve this as fast as possible. Thank you for working with us. Then you can put that in the template and it will go to both of those. And now we're just going to hit save. And now that is associated in with that phase. So now let's save all of this. And if we go back to our tickets, let's create a new one. So we're back into our test. We've got a new one and we've got blueprint test and we've got start working on this ticket. It's going to pop in from the side. It's going to ask for me to select the owner. And if that's changing the team, then so be it. And then we're going to go complete transition. And then the buttons along here will change because it's showing me, the user, what I have to do next. So then I go to escalate, and the next escalate is a comment. And it's going to say, now that I'm escalating, I'm going to say, this is urgent. And I'm going to go complete transition because it's required. It's forcing me to put something in. So now that I have completed that phase, and it's now got this is urgent, and it's added that. And what will have happened in the background is it will have sent an email to the agent and to the customer. And now I've got a new transition, which is close. And if I wanted, I could create a very complex tree of things, whether that's assigning it to a new user, escalating it to a manager, etc. And we've got, along the way, we can force certain things. So if we're about to close, we can force the user to enter a resolution. What was it that was done in order to close the ticket? And that way we've always got a record of everything that was completed, and it makes the data collection a lot better. And now you can go back through old tickets and start to create more of a picture of what needs to be done and why, and maybe areas for improvement. Now I've got child here, so we've got associate child tickets. So we'll go create new child ticket, and it'll just be linked and to the other one as the primary ticket. Now another requirement is this approval, and so I'm going to go for submit for approval. So I can select approvers, and again, if I do that, it's going to show email addresses, so I can't do that one. But you can say need to approve a discount of 20%, and then you can give a bit of the backstory as to why, and then go and submit for approval. Now they will get an email and a notification which will appear up in here, and they'll be able to click into that and then click approve or reject. And you can also force them to give a read. Alternatively, you could route the entire ticket to that person for approval and then put it in the next step that it gets routed back away from the approving manager to the original record owner or to a sales department or something like that. You've also got the ability to assign not only within teams, Teams is kind of like queue. A queue within a department is a list of tickets that are grouped in a particular way. So for example, you might have sales triage, and that person has a queue, and then they start assigning it to a particular user after that, or another department. Now, another question was asked about the reopening of cases. So we see here we've got the ticket ID. Now, when the ticket gets sent to the customer, it goes with a ticket ID in the subject line. If that ticket ID is in the subject line and it gets responded to within the desk platform, it will reopen that original ticket. So when you go back to the list view, you'll see it here. And when you open it again, you'll be able to see that the client has responded. You could use a workflow to automatically assign that. When you open the ticket, it will show you that there is a whole bunch of history in it as well. Now, when we come here, we've got a couple of queues. We've got agent queue and we've got team queue. So the agent queue will show you the individual and how many tickets that they've got in their queue. If we go through all the other users, you'll be able to see how many they have. If I go into team queue, now we can see based on their team, whether it's the account team, sales team, dev team, whatever it is, how many they have in their queue. And it is really just going to look exactly like this. It's a filtered list that shows you only that group. Then when you want to get a high level management overview, you can go to this headquarters tab, and you can see how many incoming emails, how many responses, what the live traffic is, what the customer happiness rating is, and you can create a survey that goes out automatically once they've completed that. And that would either go in the ticket email, in the blueprint, or you can use Zoho Survey if you want to create a more bespoke survey and then ask them through that. You've got the high-level overview of total, unassigned, open, etc. Who's online, who's offline, how many tickets they all have, what the delay is, and then you can see the most threaded tickets and any negative ratings. If you need any more than that, you've got this analytics dashboard, which can then hook into Zoho Analytics, which can give you a far more advanced report of all of the things. Here we've got a little pop-up which is telling us about Radar. Now, Radar is a mobile app, and you can get a lot of the reports through your mobile app and see a live view of everything that's happening in your desk environment. Okay, so over in the notifications, as things come up, you've got various tickets here. We've got a ticket which was when we tried to send that email that we tested and it failed because the email address wasn't correct. That is the notification that we get there. If we click into it, it'll take us straight to that ticket and we can see here's our comment, etc. So let's just go back over to the tickets and I'm going to click into a ticket here and let's just say we want to close it out. You'll notice that here it is locked at the moment because we have the blueprint. So it's forcing the users to go through a particular process in order to close that. And you can have multiple options. At the moment, I've only got one button, but let's just say you want to accelerate close, or if it's junk or spam, you can hit that button and automatically do a series of actions without having to manually handle the ticket. Next, if I remove it from the blueprint and revoke, just for the purpose of this, now I can change the status. I can do it here, or I can close the ticket down here. So let's just do that one. And you'll notice this time tracking keeps coming up. Now, I've got this because it's recommending how much time to assign to that ticket. You can turn this off, or you can have it automatically add the time. I'm always asking the user. So in this case, we've closed the ticket. Now let's go back out to tickets, and you'll notice that that one was gone. That one was test 4. And because we've got open tickets, that one is now off that list. And that list is kind of like your triage zone. It's where you work through, and maybe we create a triage ticket queue. But basically, that will allow you to filter through all the ones that you have to go through to handle your tickets. And you can see this one has got the due date of when it's supposed to be handled by. If we go back over to the side here, we've got open tickets, we've got closed tickets. So there's now one there. So if we click here, we can still see there's that ticket that we closed a second ago. You've also got the ability to view all, and there's a whole bunch of more views here that perhaps might be useful. If you need one of these, so my tickets, my open tickets, I think is quite a useful one. Then you can click on it and you just click the little star, and then that will be in the main view in this top list for you. Now, one question was logging a phone call. Now, if a phone call comes in and you don't have an integration with your phone system, you can just hit the plus button, fill in your ticket, and then when you, in your classification, in your channel, you can just select that it was a phone call and it creates a ticket. If you have an integration with the phone system, then you can have it so that it automatically creates a ticket and it pops up immediately. So that will help you generate the start of your ticket, because obviously it can't read everything. It'll bring through the phone number. You might be able to look up the contact name. You then might be able to look up or create the subject, call with Jimmy, and then in the description, start taking notes about what the conversation was. Then once the ticket has been created, then you can go over and start to take notes, etc., in this conversation feed. So you would just use the comments, take the notes that you need. If you needed to loop someone in, once you save the notes, then you can reply all, or you can forward. So if we go back here to the ticket, so we're going to go back to the main ticket, and we're just going to hit this drop down here, and we can see we can reply or we can forward. So if you needed to forward to someone that's in the organization that's not in the ticket desk, alternatively, if you needed to mention someone, this would notify them that something had happened on the ticket. If you needed any deeper communication with other members in the team that aren't perhaps using the desk, you've got this line down here, which is smart chats. So using that, it interacts with Zoho Click, and you can chat with other people that are in your organization. Now, if 2 people open the same ticket at the same time, you'll get a little red flag that will flash up over here, and it will say agent collision detection. And it will say basically there are 2 people trying to access the same ticket, and you'll see exactly who that is. And then you can either chat with them to say, you take it, or don't worry, I've got this one. But basically that will tell you this is your case now. And the other thing you would do is ideally assign it to yourself. So you know that that ticket is yours, everybody else knows that ticket is yours, and that you're in control of what's happening. We did have a requirement for email threading. When the subject changes, that it causes issues. Now, if the email contains this ticket ID, then that ticket ID will be the subject. Doesn't matter what changes within the subject line, the ticket ID is what will get picked up and what will basically link that information together. So if the subject line changes, but the ticket ID is the same, then it will be mapped with the same ticket ID thread. And then we had a requirement for multiple brands. Now, if we go into the settings and we go into rebranding, on the left, we can see we've got logo, domain mapping, portal name, and multi-branding. So yes, you can have multiple branded help centers with a common user base, so they can each approach each different one. You give each one its own URL, and it might be help.abc.com, and then help.def.com, and then help.zxy, whatever it is. Then you can have those different help desks be unique or feel unique, and then at the same time you can have the same customer access all the others because it's on the back end as the same ticket desk, and you'll have the same information about all of them. Some other features in the back end, we have skills-based routing. So if I click on here, you can assign specific skills to specific users. So if we add a skill, that might be e-support. Now in this I've got platform, so if it's someone had a WordPress skill or someone had a Zoho skill, then I would list that. So in this, just for the demo's sake, we're going to give it a brief description. And then in here we could say, based on the field within the ticket is what will automatically assign them that. So if the ticket was related to a particular product, then you could look up people with that as that product as their skill and then assign it to that. It might be better if you use something like a product category, just so you're not dealing with changing it every time you get a new product. This is particularly important if you have 1,000 products. It's going to get a nightmare to manage. So if you had 5 main product categories, that you would have a skill within that. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to manage and then map the two together. We mentioned before in email templates, you can create a custom email template and then assign that to who needs to see it. So there are folders here basically, and then have different ones per department. You've got ticket templates, so you can create one that is either pre-filled out or includes instructions. For example, I've got one here that says password reset request, and there's a little bit of instructions in here. So you might have a detailed list of things that you require from your customer in order to properly address whether or not they have that particular issue. Now, these are only accessible from within the portal. So remembering when we were back over here, if I go add ticket, I can select from a ticket template, and we've got this password reset request. If I click on that one, it's going to close the previous ticket that I had open. And if I scroll down here, we can see that it's asking me for some particular information. Now, it could be very complex. Maybe there's specific series of steps that you need them to undergo to troubleshoot. You can include that in the ticket. Now, I mentioned time tracking earlier. So in the time tracking, I've got it just so that it automatically tries to track the time, and then you've got billing should you wish to have it bill. We've already gone through the blueprints, but in the macros, this is really just a one-click mark as spam. So we can see here that it is going to, it's available to all actions, and it's only going to just mark them as spam. So it's very simple and quick and easy to do, but you could create multiple actions. So for example, an alert, a task, field update, move department. Now there is the ability to run code as well. So if you don't find what you need, you can create it. Now one question was based around SLAs or service level agreements. Now you can create an SLA. So this one is priority based on SLA, silver, bronze, gold. You can assign these SLAs to clients, and then based on that, when that ticket gets raised from them, we'll automatically assign that level of priority to them. Now, there are certain things that you can do to automatically assign it to tickets, but you would just come up with a plan that's relevant to you. And then in that, you'd be able to say what happens. So priority comes in, and if they are that particular SLA level based on the ticket creation, execute when associated with a particular account. And then we say resolve within 6 hours, resolve within 1 day, resolve within 2 days. And so that is, high priority, medium priority, or low priority. We can build supervisor rules to say when something has not been actioned within a certain period. So for example, SLA is violated. then it would either escalate to a supervisor and maybe send an email out to somebody. Or maybe you could have it so that it sends an email to the customer to say, hey, we're very sorry, we've now escalated this, we'll get back to you immediately. You can also define support plans to make sure things are done within certain limits and within certain SLAs, as well as creating certain schedules so that it only happens within business hours, for example. We can build automatic or manual assignment rules so that when it comes in, if it's a particular category or from a particular group or to a particular department, that it gets assigned to a user, etc. Or we've got round robin, so whoever's next available. In terms of workflows, you can see the rules, alerts, tasks, field updates, custom functions. Coming to the phone systems again, we can see that there's a whole bunch of phone systems that can be integrated. We use 3CX. It's an IVR system, and it can link into the system. And then when it does that, every time a call comes through, it will create a ticket automatically and bring it up for you and try to link the phone number to the customer at the same time. We have other channels such as chat, which can integrate with Sales IQ and then be a little pop-up on your website so that you can engage with the user. When looking inside the Zoho Desk environment, here's an example of the little pop-up. If you click on that one, they can fill out a form, choose the department, and start the conversation, and then that will be a chat feed which will turn up in the desk portal here. Now, when talking permissions and roles and profiles and who sees what, we can get in and create a hierarchy. So you might have perhaps by region or by department, you create a role, and then you can force who has visibility above that. So for example, employees can see contractors, managers can see employees and contractors, and the client success manager, which controls all of it, can see each of the group leader, employee, and contractor. We can also create profiles and custom ones as well, which then give various levels of access down to whether they can see something, edit something, change something, and delete something. We could also create specific data sharing rules. So if you needed to change access or do something different, then you could do that as well. You can also list products in here so that if you wanted to link the product to the ticket, that you could have that linked. So we could say product category, say hardware, and then give it a description, product code, so that when you had a fault with that particular product or an inquiry about it, that it would be associated, and then you could start to see reports on how many times people looked at it. And we can see here attachments. So if there was any specific product manuals, then you could assign them here. You could reverse look up all of the contacts that are associated to that, all the accounts, and all of the tickets. So that's a bit of a walkthrough on Zoho Desk. There's a lot to it. There's a lot that you can configure, and you kind of need to envisage what you could do based on kind of what we've talked about, because there's just so many things that you could build that it gets really hard to show you something very specific. So hopefully I've answered some questions, I've given you some examples and given you some thought about what you could possibly do in the future. And remember that we can get into the code. So if there's something that you need that you can't see or that you didn't see on the screen, then chances are we can build that using the code. So for example, creating ticket templates. I've created a custom module here, in which case we can create templates. And then when those templates are created, that using code, we can automatically assign a recurring ticket. And again, I am a little bit limited by what I can do in the sandbox and what I can show you, but basically that recurring template thing is really great for maintenance. You can also interact with the rest of Zoho One. There was bits where I talked about using Zoho Social. You might be able to interact more with the CRM, or we might be able to do things like the marketing or move something into Zoho Creator. If you have a custom use case, then Creator is a great way to build a lot of things to run your organization. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please let us know what you thought in the comments. If you've got any other things you would like us to produce in videos, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to create more and like to continue creating value. You can find out more about us at relevate.com.au or join our business community at join.relevate.com.au. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Please give us a like and a subscribe. We look forward to seeing you next time.